You bump into a chair, and you apologize to the chair. Someone steps on your foot, and you apologize to them. You ask a completely reasonable question, and you start with, "I'm so sorry to bother you." If any of this sounds familiar, you're not overly polite. You're carrying something that has nothing to do with manners. Over-apologizing looks like good manners from the outside, and sometimes it genuinely is. But chronic over-apologizing, apologizing before you've done anything wrong, apologizing for existing, apologizing for having needs, is not a social skill. It is a symptom of a belief that has been so deeply internalized it operates below conscious awareness. The belief that your presence, your needs, your opinions, your mistakes are a burden to the people around you, and that the only way to stay acceptable is to constantly pre-apologize for taking up space. Here's the psychology of what's actually happening. When someone over-apologizes, they are not primarily expressing remorse. They are managing anticipated threat. Psychologists who study appeasement behavior find that frequent unprompted apologies serve a specific function. They signal submission before any conflict has actually occurred. The message underneath the sorry is not, "I did something wrong." It is, "Please don't be angry with me." It is, "I know I might be too much, but I'm trying to make myself smaller so you won't reject me." This pattern almost always has roots in environments where someone's anger, disapproval, or withdrawal felt genuinely dangerous, where the child learned that getting ahead of the threat, preemptively apologizing, making themselves smaller, smoothing things over before they erupted, was the safest strategy available. The sorry keeps coming in adulthood, not because there is always something to apologize for, but because the nervous system never learned that it was safe to stop. Here's the layer that makes it personal. People who apologize too much very frequently carry a core belief, often formed before they had words for it, that their needs, their feelings, and their presence are inherently excessive, that wanting things is selfish, that feeling things is inconvenient, that needing anything from anyone is an imposition. Psychologist Kristin Neff, whose research on self-compassion is among the most cited in psychology, found that chronic apologizers show significantly higher levels of self-criticism and significantly lower levels of self-compassion than average. They treat their own existence as something that requires ongoing justification. Every sorry is a small act of seeking permission to be here, to speak, to want, to need. Not from rudeness, from a genuine quiet belief that without the apology, without the constant softening, they are too much for the people around them. Here's the mechanism that keeps the pattern running. Over-apologizing works, not in a healthy way, but it works. It de-escalates, it smooths, it prevents the discomfort of conflict. And because it works, the brain reinforces it. Psychologists call this negative reinforcement when a behavior is repeated because it removes something uncomfortable. Every time an apology deflects a difficult moment, the brain files it as a successful strategy. The problem is that it extracts a cost every time. Research by psychologist Marjorie Goodwin on social interaction found that people who over-apologize are perceived over time not as polite, but as less confident, less credible, and paradoxically, less trustworthy, because constant apologizing signals uncertainty about one's own actions, and uncertainty repeated enough erodes how others see you and how you see yourself. The sorry that was supposed to protect the relationship slowly undermines it. So here's what's happening when someone apologizes too much. The sorry is a preemptive submission signal learned in environments where conflict felt dangerous. It comes from a core belief that their needs and presence are too much, and it keeps running because it works in the short term, while slowly eroding confidence and credibility over time. If you recognize yourself in this, the first thing to understand is that the apology habit is not about bad manners. It is about a story you were taught, directly or indirectly, about how much space you're allowed to take up. And the most important thing you can do is not stop apologizing. It's start noticing when you apologize for things that don't require one. Every unnecessary sorry is a data point. It tells you something about what you believe you owe people just for existing. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have needs that inconvenience people occasionally. You are allowed to speak, to ask, to exist, without leading with an apology. Not because your impact on others doesn't matter, but because treating your own presence as something that constantly requires justification is not kindness to others. It is unkindness to yourself, and you deserve better than that. If this video describes something you do without thinking, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. And subscribe, because every week we go deeper into the behaviors, the patterns, the things about being human that nobody explains.